It's great to speak to a packed house. It's a great honour to be able to open this important debate about the future of UK shipbuilding. I'm very glad to see the Minister in his place, and I know from our previous encounters the depth of expertise and passion that he brings to this debate, and I look forward to hearing his contribution later. I also declare an interest. I'm a long-standing member and former North West Regional Secretary of United Union, which organises workers in the shipbuilding sector, including my own constituency. With the National Shipbuilding Strategy refresh expected shortly, the timing of this debate could not have been more appropriate. It is a document that is keenly anticipated across the entirety of the sector and has the potential to define the landscape of British shipbuilding for decades to come. I'm sure that the Minister knows just how important it is that the Government plans live up to the Defence Secretary's and the Prime Minister's lofty rhetoric. Only yesterday I had the pleasure of taking my honourable friend, the Shadow Minister for Defence Procurement, on a tour of the historic Camelard shipyards in my constituency. It was clear to see that the immense pride which every member of the team took in their work, from the stages to the shipwrights and the senior management. And they have much to be proud of. After a challenging few decades for the whole of the industry, Camelard enters the 2020s with a reputation for being at the forefront of innovation in British shipbuilding and for having delivered some of the most technologically advanced vessels afloat. From its slipways sailing RSS Sedaving Atabreda, commonly known as Boaty McBoaty, or whatever you want to call it, one of the most sophisticated research vessels ever built. And as we speak, that ship is battling perilous Antarctic waters following in the wake of the Ibris and the Endurance, and gathering vital data about the impact of climate breakdown on the polar regions. Capable of operating in temperatures as low as -40 and equipped with the state-of-the-art equipment to study the deepest depths of the ocean, the SDA is a marvel of British engineering in which all of Birkenhead can take pride. Camelard also continues to play an enormous important role in the local economy. It is easily the largest employer in our town, employing 650 well-paid and unionised workers, with a further 1,500 subcontractors active on the site. Its Marine Engineering College continues to offer high-quality apprenticeships to around 50 people each year across every discipline, with a commitment to doubling the number in years to come. These apprenticeships are so highly valued that last year 880 applications were made for just 25 positions. The shipyard's success is being felt far beyond the shipyard walls, with 400 million being spent in the wider supply chain in the last 5 years alone, including 130 million in the immediate locality, supporting over 300 local businesses. For all that passion, enthusiasm and commitment that I witnessed yesterday, there still is a sense that the glory days are, at least for now, behind us. Once the shipyards towered over the skyline of our town, as iconic and as powerful a symbol of Birkenhead as the three graces are still for neighbouring Liverpool, no more. And when a young person could reasonably expect to walk up the school gates and into secure lifelong work at Camelard is long gone. My mother, father and 3 brothers all learned their trades in the yards. Like so many of my generation, my future of that of my family's was entwined with the future of British industry. There's probably not a single young person living in our country today who can say the same. The story of Camelard has been replicated time and time again, not only in shipbuilders up and down our country, but also in foundries, forges and factories. We have been told by the members opposite that the destruction of British industry was inevitable, and we had no choice but to bow to the inexorable sides of history. But as the UK was cutting its shipyards adrift, governments in Spain, South Korea and Italy were investing in their shipbuilders and are today unrivalled anywhere in the world. So after many years of decline and industrial neglect, the government's recognition that change is needed is warmly welcomed. So too is the decision to expand the scope of national shipbuilding strategy with up-and-coming refresh. But if the Defence Secretary is to earn his title of shipbuilding czar, then it's time to prove his commitments to revitalising UK shipyards and building a brighter future for this critically important industry. And I fear the cracks in his resolve are already beginning to show. In December 2020, I held a Westminster Hall debate on the issue of defence procurement and was glad to hear the Minister agree with me that the historic increases in the defence spending announced in the year's spending review should be used to support domestic manufacturers, British jobs and skills. On that day, I also saw a commitment from the Minister that the Royal Fleet Auxiliary new fleet solid support ships would be designed and built in their entirety in Britain. This is a fundamental test of the Government's commitment to British shipbuilding, and the signs so far are not promising. Leading figures in the defence sector, including Sir John Parker, have repeatedly called on the need to recognise social value when commissioning new defence projects like the Fleet Solid Support Ships. But despite classifying these new vessels as warships, the Secretary of State has failed to provide a cast-iron guarantee that these ships will be built in the entirety in Britain. I will.
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for giving away, because he's making a compelling case here, and indeed we have never in this country designed constructed sovereign warships outside the United Kingdom, and it would be for so many different reasons a retrograde step if we were to do so. We must, however, have a shipbuilding industry that goes beyond the construction of warships, where, of course, different procurement rules apply. And does he share my frustration at the way in which the mismanagement of Ferguson Shipyard by the Scottish Government in Greenock has so fundamentally undermined confidence in that prospect of having a non-warship building shipbuilding industry in this country?
My honourable friend makes a good point, and I think that as well as building for defence procurement, it also should be building commercial vehicles as well. In the terms of the competition dictate that the FSS need only be integrated in the UK. This means that the lion's share of the work could be offshored abroad, with British shipbuilders losing out on vital work at a critical time. This would be a tragic betrayal of British shipyards and the thousands of workers that they support. The Minister will no doubt be aware of my enthusiasm for the bid put forward by Team UK, a consortium of British firms including Camel Aids, Rolls-Royce, Babcock and BAE Systems. In fact, over the last 2 years, I've inundated as a department with correspondence demanding that the contract be awarded to this consortium, which will truly represent the very best of British engineering. But I repeat my call today: if the Government is serious about supporting shipbuilding, then Team UK must be awarded this bid. The benefits are obvious. Instead of allowing non-domestic firms to benefit from billions of pounds of taxpayers' money, we could create or secure at least 6,700 jobs in British industry, including 2,000 in the shipyard, while also seeing 285 million of the total spend being returned to Treasury coffers through income tax, NI contributions and lower welfare payments. It is also imperative that the revised shipbuilding strategy look at the wider issue of procurement. For years, ministers have waxed lyrical about the extraordinary economic benefits that Brexit will bring. But instead of taking advantage of our departure from the European Union to throw its full weight behind British shipbuilders, the Government continues to needlessly follow procurement rules that force businesses like Camel Aids to compete with state-owned giants like Spain and Navantia. This is a David versus Goliath struggle. And even when British shipbuilders are in the running for lucrative defence projects, ministers too often expect them to shoulder enormous financial risks, including 100% refund guarantees that many British shipyards can ill afford. Let me be clear: UK shipbuilders are not looking for handouts, nor are they asking the taxpayers' money to be wasted. They know all too well that the importance of delivering value for money. They just want a level playing field. And they are absolutely right to say that a more benign contracting environment is badly needed if we are to achieve the shipbuilding renaissance that ministers have repeatedly promised. And so I hope when the NSS refresh is published, it will include a recognition that the Ministry of Defence must begin to accept more responsibility for the financial risks that are inherent in commissioning the top-of-the-end vessels that the Defence Select Committee has identified as being so vital to guaranteeing our national security in the deeply uncertain years ahead. As I have said, the shipbuilding strategy has the potential to define the future of British shipbuilding for days to come. But if shipyards across the country are to make the investments in recruitment and training that they so desperately want to, they also need guarantee of work in the short term as well. It's not good enough to tell firms that things will get better in 10 years' time when so many yards are confronting enormous challenges here and now. We need action to stem the exodus of jobs and skills from this sector and to lay solid foundations which will be essential if the shipbuilding strategy is to be delivered in full. I hope the Minister will speak to this issue today. When the Secretary of State for Levelling Up... Yes?
I'm sure as part of that he would recognise that the resources and the commitment that we've made to Royal Navy procurement, a real step change, is exactly the kind of support that he's expecting to see being delivered to UK shipyards.
I do accept the point that the budget for the defence, and for the ships building. Yeah, I do accept that. But just to get back, when the Secretary of State for Levelling Up travelled through my constituency recently, he opted not to visit Camelades. Perhaps he knew that the government has fallen far short in providing shipbuilders with support that they need, and of the welcome they was likely to receive from a workforce that for far too long has been failed by central governments. But if levelling up is to become something more than an empty slogan, then we must recognise the enormous potential that British industry and shipbuilding in particular has to play in driving inward investment, creating high-skilled work and building a more prosperous future for left-behind towns like Birkenhead. Mr Deputy Speaker, as a lifelong trade unionist, I've spoken today primarily about investing in the future of UK shipbuilding means for British workers and industry. But the issue of national security must not be ignored, and the stakes could not be higher. Putin's appalling attack on the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine has shattered the peace that our continent has enjoyed for so long and caused human suffering on a scale that none of us thought we would see again. We simply do not know what the future holds, but the appalling scenes we are witnessing on the streets of Kiev and Kharkiv serve as a powerful reminder of just how important it is that we build up our defence capacities at home. That must begin in our nation's shipyard. And I once again urge the Minister to do everything in his power to ensure that fleet solid support ships and all future defence projects now in the pipeline are built and designed in their entirety in the UK. It's the very least that our shipyards deserve.